Hi everybody, it's Lisa from Sutton's Days. Today I want to have a little chat with you and I want to talk to you about get home bags. So we're going to talk a little bit about get home bags. Now there are all kinds of different bags and it's good to keep them categorized for their purpose, okay? You're familiar with the term bug out bag, and then there's the get home bag. They are completely different things and they need to be set up in completely different ways. A get home bag is something that you have with you in your car or in your office or both, so that should anything happen, you have some extra tools, maybe some extra food to help you get home, okay? And a lot of different things have to be factored into this. A lot of things like what kind of shape you're in, what kind of physical issues you have, the distance that you have to travel potentially between work and home, or wherever and home, that you are going. So you would look at these things a little differently depending on what's going on. On the average, we're going to take my average, okay? On average, most times, what I'm trying to do is I am at work and I would need to get home. If anything happened on my way to work, I would just turn around. Okay, but if I'm at work and something happens, then my main objective is to get home. I am approximately, we'll say 12.5 miles from home to work and vice versa. And it is majorly a rural community. There, I would have to go through the downtown area. And for those of you that know me and know where I live, that's not a metropolis, okay? It's just a little small community town. And I would have to get through there, and then I would have a rural country route to take to my house. And all of that is paved, and all of that, a fair chunk of it is not too inhabited, but I would have to get through town to get to that part. I'd say probably at least half of it I would be dealing with a lot of people, and then the other half I would not. But it's something to take into consideration. Are you in a big city trying to get to the suburbs, or are you in a big city trying to stay, get to a different part of the city? Or are you like me, where you're in a more rural community trying to get from one end to the other? And like I said, we're gonna go with the average of about 12.5 miles is what I would have to go from work to home, and that's if I was at work. So, what kind of things would I need to do that? Now, number one, sorry, I'm trying to cook dinner at the same time. Number one that I have to factor into is my health. Okay, and we're just gonna talk me. We'll factor in some other puzzles here shortly. But just as far as where I'm concerned, you would have to consider my health. You would have to consider my physical abilities, in addition to the distance. So right now, if I were just to go out and walk a mile, it would take me between 15 and 20 minutes to walk a mile. But anything over that mile, I'm feeling it and I'm slowing down. Okay, so objectively, as things progress with weight and diet and everything else, I would be looking to have a more consistent speed with walking miles or running miles or doing whatever. So if you're talking 12.5 miles at a mile every 30 minutes, let's average it up to 30 minutes, because by the end of it I'm going to be really tired. I'm looking at about what, 6.5 hours, 6.25 hours there to walk home at a leisurely pace. Yeah, with trouble. Okay, with you got to figure when something like that is happening, where you actually have to walk home that distance, it's going to take you a little bit longer. So factor in that little bit of extra time. Okay, so figure 6.25 hours for me to walk home, as opposed to a 20-minute drive. That's quite a bit, guys. So that's something that I need to take into consideration. Now, when you factor that in, you're also going to look at the time of year. It's different in the summer than it is in the winter, and we're just going to go with those two extremes, okay? In the summer, you're having to deal with heat, and you're having to deal with critters and bugs. In the winter, you're having to deal with extreme temperatures as far as the cold goes, and the wind. The wind and the cold are just, they're a force to be reckoned with around here. So those are things that you have to take into consideration there. So you need to make sure that you have the equipment that you need. If something happens where you can't get all the way home and you can only get part of the way, then do you have what you need to make it for a little extra time to survive, to be comfortable? Not comfortable, but more comfortable, so that you can make it through until you can finish getting home. And there's a list of items that I will tell you that I will have in my bag, in addition to my everyday carry, okay? And everyday carry is another subject that we'll probably hit into next week. But for my get-home bag, there's a certain list of items that I have in the car or at work so that I can gather it up, walk away, and come home. So let's go over those items. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is that with a get-home bag, you're not looking, it's not like the bug-out bags that you hear about, okay? A get-home bag is a smaller bag. This is not a huge bag with a ton of equipment. This is enough to get you home, okay? And then again, that depends. There's, like I said, different factors to consider. Because if we go to the next big town that's north of us, that's 45 minutes one way, okay? So you want to figure an hour. Now, if it takes me 6 hours to get 12 and a half miles, how long is it going to take me to go 45 miles? It's going to take me more than a day. So in that case, I would need different things. So you can set up a couple different bags, one for your everyday to and from work and another one for your special excursions, okay? But some of the stuff that you want to consider with your get-home bag, your get-home kit. These are things, like I said, stay in your office or in your car. One of them, footwear. That's very important. I am the queen of barefoot, okay? If I have my way, I am barefoot. I am barefoot from the minute the snow starts to melt until it starts snowing again. I wear sandals when I'm at work. I'm lucky enough to have that option. And then during the cold weather, it's normally a shoe that I can slip in and out of pretty quickly. And I have different boots that I have for different purposes, you know. But when you're looking at trying to get home without being injured, you want to definitely consider your footwear. So in the wintertime, I want to make sure that if I don't have a pair of boots on me, I have a pair of boots in the truck. And they're a pair of boots that will get me that 12 miles, okay? And if it's nicer weather, I want to make sure that I've got a good pair of walking shoes, tennis shoes most likely, that I can put on and have, you know, an easier time walking home than I would in my bare feet or my sandals, definitely my sandals. But, you know, in my case, I'd probably start off in my bare feet because they are pretty much seasoned, you know, by the time summer hits. And I have no trouble walking on the side of the road. You know, if you're getting on gravel, then you have a few issues and you might want those shoes. So keep into consideration, you always want to have a pair of shoes. Water. Hydration is very, very important. And this is something that's a little more difficult depending on the weather, but you can always store a couple bottles of water. You want to make sure that they won't leak on anything that'll get ruined. And in the wintertime, you have to watch out because they will freeze. So I almost never leave the house without having a bottle of something to drink. Whether it's water or soda or something to hydrate myself a little bit while I'm traveling. You want to make sure to do that. A really good idea to have in this kit is to get a life straw. I'll leave a link in the description box. A life straw is a phenomenal tool. It's really great, and it can filter enough water for one person for 1 year. So it's always a good idea to have a few of those around, and especially to, you know, at least one per person in your house. I would say a couple more. The water around us is good. It's not great. Okay, so you're going to want to filter it, and if anything happens, you definitely are going to want to filter, and that is the best thing to do. So to have that life straw in your bag, that you don't have to worry about. That regardless of season, that'll work well for you. But then, in addition to some bottled water or something to hydrate yourself with, preferably water, and try to get the bottles that are a little thicker, not those really flimsy ones, you know, that are better for the environment. You want to make sure that they'll hold up to being in the bag, in the car, unless you bring your bag into work. So, but if it's in your car, it's got to withstand the weather that you deal with. So that is something to think about. In addition to water, you want something to eat. And you don't need a 4-course meal, okay? You just need something. You need something with some carbs and some protein to sustain you and to keep your energy up while you're traveling, okay? So again, the amount does depend on how far you anticipate having to travel. For my work example, I would keep in maybe a what do they call them, a granola bar, okay, or a pack that, how they've flattened the tuna, the easy tuna, some of those peanut butter crackers, something like that. Yes, even me who's not eating, the carb stuff, the carbs are necessary. Your adrenaline is going to be flying through the roof, and you are going to be needing the carbohydrates. It will help, trust me. So just something simple like that can stay, change out this bag every 6 months, at least. You want to make sure. If you want to go into it on a semi-regular basis to make sure that you have everything you need, don't borrow from this bag. But some kind of food. Now, if I am going to the town north of us, that's 45 minutes away, I'm going to make sure that I've got something for a few days. Not a 4-course meal, guys, okay? We're talking about calories to get home. It doesn't even have to taste really good. It just has to get in your face, in your body, with enough energy to get you home. That's really important. So you want to keep the amount equal to the average of what you will use. Okay, so if for the most part you're always doing that 45-minute drive, you want to make sure that that's in your car. If you're planning a long trip where you're going to be away for quite a while, or you're going to be more than 3 hours away, redo your bag accordingly. Give that some serious thought, and that way, at least if you don't use it, that's all the better. We never want to be in a position where we have to use it. Okay, so food and water, 1 and 2, right after footwear. So shelter. Or protection against the weather. I'm kind of lumping those in together because, again, I'm talking about a short distance for the most part for me, but should it be a long distance, you might need something. But against the weather, that's a really big thing. So clothing kind of kicks in with that. If it's wintertime, I'm always in a hurry. I don't often grab a coat because I'm going from a warm house to a warm car to a warm office and vice versa. But I try to never ever leave the house without having a coat in the car. There's always, 365 days a year, a blanket in the car, and it's a good warm blanket. So you need that protection from the weather in order to be safe. Now, when you're looking at summertime, you need something that's going to provide you with a little bit of shade. So maybe a tarp, maybe a tent, definitely a blanket. And again, depending on how far you anticipate having to go, a hat. A simple baseball cap will make your life so much easier if you end up having to walk a long distance that you normally don't have to, because that'll keep the sun off your head. And that, from this person who doesn't do well in the sun, makes a really, really big difference. So those are little things to consider in. And a hat is also great in the wintertime because it helps keep the heat in. It helps keep the weather. If it's raining, it helps keep some of the rain from hitting, right in your face. Hats are a good thing. So just a couple baseball caps maybe. Just roll them up, stick them in there. Okay, so along with everything else, you need to take into consideration your medical status, okay? First aid is big. So even if it's just a store-bought first aid kit, there's no such thing as just a store-bought first aid kit. It's a first aid kit. It has the basic materials to help you in case of an emergency. If you want to add to it, be a little more proactive for serious emergencies, then that's a really good thing too. So you want to start with at least the basic first aid kit and work up from there, and you want to customize it to your needs, to what you have to deal with. If you have allergies that you have to deal with, you want to make sure there's something in there for allergies. You want to make sure there's some kind of painkiller in there like ibuprofen or Tylenol or whatever the case may be. You want to make sure there's some antibiotic cream. You want to make sure there's bandages. Possibly, some kind of needles or something in case you feel, that something needs to be stitched. There's any number of things that you need to factor in there, but a decent first aid kit is always a really good thing to have in that. You don't need a huge one. You just need a small one that will handle what you think you may run into from point A to point B. Okay, so first aid kit, really important. It's always a good idea to have a comb, a brush, that kind of thing. Maybe some of those what do they call them? Those moist towelettes, those wet ones, you know. Throw a few of those in there. Wrap them up so that, you know, they last pretty good. Or you can make your own and put those in there. There's different ways to do that. Google is your friend, okay? Now it comes to tools. So you have, let's backtrack a little bit here. So you have your footwear, and you have your water, and you have your food. You have your shelter, and you have some additional clothing to some extent, some protection from the weather. And then you have a first aid kit. You're right up there. You're right up there with having a whole bunch of stuff that you really need. Now, on a side note, toilet paper. Okay? Now, you know how I am about my toilet paper, right? Toilet paper, guys. Throw some toilet paper in there. At the very least, get some of those travel packages of Kleenex, you know, that they have. But a roll of toilet paper doesn't take up that much room. Smush it, stuck it in there. You never know when you need toilet paper. But now we're going to get to tools. There's different tools that you can carry. And they're making the tools so convenient now to stick into small spaces. So part of my everyday carry is a knife, a pocket knife, because they're handy. Okay, I'm hoping to take a class here in the not too distant future on tactical knife use. You know, don't ask me for specific titles because I'm no good at it, but it's a security class, more or less, and knowing how to use your knife to protect yourself. So I've always got at least the one knife. I've always got a Leatherman type tool with me just in case, and those are in my purse. I keep those in my purse, but I would have them, you know, because I would have my purse. I would have them with the rest of this. You want some way to be able to start a fire, whether it is matches that are in a waterproof container or lighters. You know, I smoked for 28 years. Do you think I could find a lighter today? No. So, you know, grab lighters. They're cheap. They're inexpensive. Store them up. They're a good thing to have. Or they have those magnesium flint doohickey thingies, which I have a couple of. I just need to actually put them in my bag so that I'm carrying them. But some way to start a fire is a good thing, because if it is cold, and you are stranded in a spot for a time, you want to be able to try to keep warm, and that will be helpful. The knife will help open those food containers. That's a really good thing, okay? There are different tools that you can use for different things, but again, customize it to what you feel will work best for you. Don't go hog wild. You know, if you have to go 12.5 miles, you don't need 100 foot of paracord and a super duper below zero tent, and you know, you got 12 miles. Just get what you need to safely walk 12 miles in 30-degree weather. Okay? Do what you think is best for you, but you don't need to go crazy. Again, this is a small bag. This is not a super, super big bag, okay? They have these small toolkits now that you can customize, you know, the tips of them to do different things. That's a good thing to have too, just in case. And that's literally just in case. There's a situation someplace that you need a flathead or a Phillips head, or you need a little wrench or something, you know. It's a good thing to have on you. It's a good thing, even if you get stuck in your car. I mean, it's a good thing to have these little tools. So that's a good thing to get in your carry home or your get home bag. Okay. Another thing is a flashlight, a small flashlight. Say it's at nighttime. You're going to need some kind of light to show you the way. And they have a whole bunch of different batteries, or not batteries, different flashlights now. They come in all shapes and sizes. I do highly recommend one of those head ones that you can put on your head. Those make a huge difference when you're walking in the pitch black. And also one of those little handheld mag lights, okay? You can find them just about any place anymore. And you just have to check the batteries on a regular basis to make sure that they're fresh, and you should be good to go. Flashlights are always a really good thing. And zip ties. Zip ties are another thing that is very helpful. Zip ties are kind of like duct tape. And duct tape. Zip ties and duct tape, because they make everything better, don't they? Okay, I think that pretty well covers most everything that I have in my notes regarding a get-home bag and our get-home bags. There, again, like I said, you have to customize it to what you think you might need. You need to figure out that distance that you go every day or most often, so that you can customize your bag. But you don't want the super large can of peanut butter. You just need some peanut butter crackers, Make it work, make it fit. It makes a big deal. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, okay, Lisa, we went from canning tomatoes and making sure that our pantry was, prepared for the winter, and now you're talking about get-home bags. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. And if you watch the news at all, which I do very little, okay, but if you watch the news at all, you have caught the hurricanes and the floods and the earthquakes and the tornadoes and the blizzards, the severe weather conditions that are highly unusual, traffic jams. There are, in the wintertime here, there's times that people have been stuck in their cars overnight because of the weather and because you couldn't move, you couldn't go someplace else. If your power goes out, if there's a blackout and you have no other way. I lived in the Detroit suburbs when we had that blackout. And it was in the summertime, it was in August. Gosh, I can't remember the year. But I was very fortunate because I had, the blackout occurred at the same exact moment that I was pulling out of my parking lot at work. So I was ahead of the mass. I managed to get home. I was very lucky. I managed to get both of our households, my mom and my sister, and get everybody, make sure everybody was safe and secure. And we kind of worked out a plan, and then the sun went down. And we were that way for the whole weekend. And so that kind of made you look at things a little differently. So you want to make sure, you just never know when something like that's going to happen. Nobody predicted that. That was completely unique and different. And you never know when something like that could happen again. I was very fortunate. I didn't have cash on me. Oh, cash. I forgot about cash, you guys. So it's a good idea to try to have small denominations of cash, 10s, 20s, strategically placed in different places, okay, in your bag and in your wallet. And you don't want to make it too easy on anybody that's going to target you if that happens. But you want to have a little bit of cash just in case, because until it really goes south, cash is still king, guys. So you want to make sure you have some cash, because if something major happens, it's highly unlikely that your debit card is going to get you out of it. They are really good for scraping windshields, though. I did find that out. So you never know when an emergency is going to hit, and so you want to be prepared for that. You want to make sure that you have a way to get home. So let me see if I went through everything. One of the things that I ran across that somebody mentioned that they put in their bag is a hand crank radio. Now, like I said, with that power outage in the Detroit area in the early 2000s, I was literally a hair ahead of that happening. So I did manage to get on the phone when I realized that something was wrong. And this was close enough to 9/11 that everyone was kind of looking in the sky and panic. So it took me a few times, but I finally got through to family and said, okay, this is, what's going on. Do you know what's happening? This is what you need to do. Make sure you've got this, make sure you've got that. I will be there as soon as I can get there. I was lucky enough to be able to get through on the phone. A lot of people couldn't, a lot of people didn't. But if you have a hand crank radio, at least you can find out what's happening. My radio in my car didn't work. Everything stopped. All the radio stations went black, everything, because nobody had power. So I couldn't get it through my car, but I had managed to get it through my cell phone. If my cell phone had been dead, these hand crank radios now, they've got them, I think they're around $40 on Amazon, where it's a hand crank radio, it's a NOAA radio, and it charges your cell phone at the same time. Shut the front door. So when everything kind of settled back down, you could get through on a phone line if they were still up, if the satellite was still there and happening. So that's all I really have for you. If you want to take it a step further, if you're in an unfamiliar area, it doesn't hurt to have a map, and it doesn't hurt to have maybe a compass, knowing how to use the compass. But again, factor it in on what you need, on what your common circumstances are. And if you go someplace or do something unusual, take some time to think through a get-home bag and a routine, a route and a routine for if something happens while you're away from home, okay? So this is just one of the bags, one of the kits that you should consider when you're trying to prepare for the unknown, and that is a get home bag. So we like it when we can get home. It's an important place to be. I hope everyone is having a really great day. We have our there is a small hunt happening this weekend, and so our friend is coming up, and the guys are going to go do some hunting, and I'm going to be working on different things around the house and in the kitchen, because you see that right there, that's 3/4 of a bushel of pears. I have pears to get in jars. So I hope everyone is having a really great day, and we're getting back on track. Things are starting to calm down, so the videos are coming. We'll talk to you again real soon. Bye.